We live in a very reactive world. People are triggering us all the time. Doesn't matter where we are politically or morally or ethically or any of that. Somebody's going to do something that's going to piss us off. And what happens when someone does that? We react. We want, in some cases, we want revenge. And it doesn't matter if it's something done to us personally, it can also be something that we see in a video, we hear in the news, we hear from a friend. It can be something that triggers us, and then immediately in our imagination, we see what we would do to that person if we were in that situation, right? There are some really brutal and awful things that happen. You know, in some cities, it was a thing for a while that young kids would come up and just haul off and hit somebody, usually an elderly person, knocking them flat, injuring them seriously, and then laughing about it. It was like a club initiation. There are things like that that happen all the time. And when we hear about them, we go, into the red zone, just pegged. So as spiritual people with consciousness and knowing how to pray, we want to make sure, because there's so much of this kind of negativity in the world, we want to make sure that it does not damage our soul. And by that, I mean, it doesn't cause us to become something we would not want to become, the kind of person that's hateful, that's full of revenge and resentment, fear, a kind of some form of exclusive rights and or just a sense of superiority over other people. We don't want to become that kind of person. But if all we do is react to what's going on in the world today, we will become that way. We will become angry, resentful, revengeful, and just generally insane. So how do we deal with this? What can we do to ensure that we do not go down that road to hell? I have a method. It works. I use it all the time because I'm triggered all the time. There's so much going on. So it's very essential for me. I have to stay ahead of it or I can get really angry. So what happens, here's how I deal with it. When I hear something that really triggers me at the deepest level, I imagine the person in mind. I see them in mind, in my imagination, and I feel my anger towards them. Rage, anger, I feel that. That's a real emotion. It's got lots of power behind it. In my mind's eye, then, I reach out and I put my hands on their head in a blessing. And because this is a symbol, when you put your hands on someone's head, God immediately knows what that means. And knows it not from looking down from on high. God knows it because God's working through you. The creative intelligence is working through you, and it knows everything that it does. So every action you take is immediately registered in the great creative intelligence. And then it harmonizes with everything that has to do with that. That's how it works. So if you put your hands on a person's head, that's a living symbol. And what the symbol says is, God bless this person. It's not, God curse this person. That's not what this means. There's probably some others. I don't know what it is. I'm glad I don't. So by putting your hands on a person's head, that is a living symbol saying you want to bless it. You want God to bless this person for their good. Whatever is good for them, they will receive. Because that's the law. Whatever you ask for in prayer will be given to you. And you're doing it mentally, but it's also spiritually because of your intent, right? So you don't know what they need. None of us know what the other person needs, especially in a heated situation like that, where you've got all this anger. But God knows what this person needs. And say it's the kids who punch out grandma. That's a broken human being. How could we possibly know what that person needs, what their soul needs? That's way deeper and more complex than any of us are capable of figuring out. We can't we can't bless people based on what we think they need, especially in serious situations like that. I mean, if you're praying for somebody with a broken leg, that's obvious. That's what they need. You're praying for that. But in a case where a person is that far gone, who knows what their road back would look like? That road back for them might take several lifetimes. But whatever it is, you know that by putting your hands on their head, saying, bless this person, that they're going to get whatever they need for that. But what about all this anger you've got? All this emotion? What do you do with that? Are you going to pretend that you're not angry now because you're holy, because you're praying to bless somebody, you're feeling all righteous and good about that? No. No, if you try to do that, all you're doing is you're stuffing the emotion back down inside you, and instead of hurting that person, it's going to hurt you. So what do you do with it? You've got all that emotion, and if you're putting your hand to something, that emotion's going to travel from you to that person. But because you're forming the living symbol of blessing a person, that changes the character of the energy. That anger is transmuted into positive blessing energy. Now, why is that? Sounds like a good idea, but is it true? Our emotions, the primary power behind them is simply power. There's no such thing as anger energy or resentment energy or pride, none of that stuff. There's no such thing. Those are not different energies. They're all the same energy with the instruction tacked onto it. You see, the same energy with an instruction tacked onto it. So, like, think of the energy in your house. You've got outlets all around on the walls. That's the energy. It knows no difference whether you plug in a toaster or a heater. It doesn't know the difference from a light bulb, from a mixer. It's all the same to it, because it's the appliance itself that is the living symbol for how that energy will manifest. Start to think in those terms, and then you can see how it works in you, so that when you put your hands on somebody's head, that's the toaster or that's the light bulb. You see, the hands together like that determines how that energy is going to be tagged, how it's going to be shaped. So just by doing that, then you leave it up to God, because, person is broken, they are far gone. You have no idea what's going to bring them back into the fold of humanity, but God does. And so you let that happen, and you bring the anger to it all the way up to this, you see, because then so you can be really angry, but still be doing good for the person. And all of that negative energy will turn, because that's what it does. It adapts to whatever instruction is given to it. And then that person, they'll start to open up to the divine, and they will get whatever they need. You see? But there's a bonus, there's a kickback for you. because every time you take a negative energy and you reshape it in that way, it integrates it into your psyche. This is psychological integration that Carl Jung talked about. But you don't do it by blocking the emotion. You don't do it by trying to fix or heal the emotion. You let the emotion be what it is, and you take the energy and use that energy as fuel to do something good. And as you then follow through and you actually use that energy to do something good, that energy gets integrated, folded into you. And it becomes then usable energy, and you feel greater vitality, and you're healthier, and you live longer, and all kinds of good things. But if you betray the energy, that sounds weird, right? Betraying your anger. If you betray your anger, it's not going anywhere except deeper in, where it can regroup and hatch new plans on how to come out sideways. In one way or another, it will come out and express whether it has to ruin your life or not. So learning distinguish the energy of the emotion with the emotion itself. Two different things. Just like a toaster is not a mixer, the light bulb is not an oven, right? So make sure that you know that the emotion, so that when you're triggered, you know that's a surge of energy, but the message, whatever triggered you, that was the message, the instructions saying this is how your emotional energy is going to manifest. It's told, you're telling it in conjunction with whoever's triggering you, because it's always a two-way arrangement. And that's the way it starts to manifest. You see? But if you're conscious enough to be able to distinguish between the energy in the emotion and the idea wrapped around it, you're on the way to mastering it. And that way, when you need a lot of emotional energy, you can call on it because you're in control of it. You see? And then all the things that emotions do for us in life get amped up, and we're more powerful, we're more effective, we're better communicators, all kinds of good things. But if you're at war with yourself, trying to be a good person and struggling because you have bad emotions and bad intent, bad will, thoughts of revenge, and all that stuff, you're going to be a mess. You're just going to be a mess. So nobody wants to be a mess. We want to live a good life. And if we're good people, we're going to want to do good in the world. So we don't want to be praying for more chaos or for revenge or any of those things, because once you go down the revenge road, that never ends. That's how generational wars are developed, are created. It's a never-ending cycle of revenge. So if we want to be spiritual, we have to get conscious, and we have to get our intent and our understanding, all of those things in alignment, so we understand how the law of prayer works, and which tells us, informs us, as we do it, we learn how to use the law of prayer. And as you can see over these now, what we've done, this is a fourth class, I think. There's a lot to prayer. It's not God give me. You know, it's probably, I haven't thought of this, but it's like a super sophisticated, metaphysically based psychology, because it shows us how the mind works. And it's metaphysical because it shows how what we call our mind is connected with the creative, universal creative intelligence. And it's every bit as nuanced and detailed as any psychological system out there. So let me just recap, and then we'll open it up for discussion. When you feel angry, you feel triggered, you feel resentful, and you visualize somebody, you know who they are, either personally or just, from the news. Visualize them, put your hands in blessing, hate them, be angry at them, whatever. But knowing that as you're putting your hand, this is a blessing and they will receive everything good that they need. And you're counting on God. And the more you do that, I can feel it even now as I'm demonstrating it, it turns from anger to just energy. And then all you're doing is you're pumping energy into this person, and God is determining how that energy will manifest. Because God is the universal creative, intelligence. God really understands stuff, how stuff works, especially people. So God, that universal creative intelligence, is going to know exactly what to do to take that horrible human being, of course, right? They have to be horrible because they triggered us. They made us mad, so they have to be horrible. It knows exactly what that person needs for them to come back more into harmonious existence with their fellow human beings. Right? Pretty simple. So whatever is needed for that, that's going to happen. But you have to know it. You can't second guess it. You can't doubt it. This is all wrapped up. This is why the church teaches faith. Have faith. Faith is a better word is knowing. And sometimes even a better word than knowing is trust. In God, we trust, right? Because that is the basis of all successful action.